French authorities have been condemned for detaining two British fishing boats in the same week the Prime Minister was heavily criticised and accused of surrendering UK fishing rights to the EU. In the latest enforcement operation, the French Maritime Prefecture confirmed that a French patrol vessel had intercepted and seized a UK trawler off the Baie des Somme in the English Channel. The incident happened on Thursday, just hours after a record number of 825 small boat migrants had crossed illegally into UK waters. The move has infuriated local fishermen who operate in the channel.
And another breaking exclusive now from Mark White this morning. French authorities have been condemned for detaining two British fishing boats in the same week that the Prime Minister was heavily criticised and accused of surrendering UK fishing rights to the EU.
Now, in this latest enforcement operation, a French maritime office confirmed that a patrol vessel had intercepted and seized a British trawler in the English Channel. Now, the incident happened on Thursday as a record number of small boat migrants crossed the Channel. Well, let's join our Home Affairs editor, Mark White, now. Mark, this is an extraordinary development.
Yes, and news of that second boat having been seized by the French just days after the first vessel was seized by a French patrol is just filtering down to the fishing community now, and those that I've briefly managed to speak to would be incandescent, I think is a fair description of the way in which they are greeting the news. So the vessel that we believe has been seized, according to GB News sources, is the Lady T, a catamaran small fishing boat that was intercepted and detained by a French patrol vessel off the Baie des Somme in the English Channel on Thursday. Now, this is just hours after we had a record day of 825 migrants arriving across the English Channel on the Wednesday. That vessel, the crew were detained and it was taken to Boulogne-sur-Mer, and it is currently tied up in Boulogne harbour being investigated for fishing, apparently, according to the French, without a licence. And of course, it just comes days after the Prime Minister was heavily criticised over his deal with the EU that gives EU trawlers access to our fishing grounds for 12 more years. That's been roundly criticised by the vast majority of people within fishing in this country who say it is not a good deal for British fishermen. Of course, the Prime Minister argues otherwise, but that is the view of many within the fishing industry. I want to bring you a quote just from one fisherman based out of Dover that I just managed to speak to in the last few minutes, worth bringing to you. He said, "This is outrageous. It's so typical of the French. They should be totally focused on trying to prevent the daily illegal incursions by migrants into the Channel. Instead, we're seeing record numbers of illegals crossing UK waters, escorted by French patrols. And the only actual enforcement work," he says, "that they're doing is targeting British fishermen." Now, this, as I say, just comes days after another British trawler, the Francesca, was again boarded and detained by French officers. That vessel was fishing off Blatz, the island, and has been taken to Brest, where it is still tied up this Saturday morning, again suspected of fishing without a licence. I mean, what British fishermen will tell you is that the issue around licences that are granted by the EU is never fair. It's highly complex. It's difficult sometimes to know exactly the days that they're allowed or not allowed to fish in certain areas, etc. But they believe they are being targeted unfairly by the French, and as you heard there from that skipper, they believe the French should be concentrating on the more prescient issue of these hundreds of illegal migrants crossing the English Channel on a regular basis.
And Mark, just reading your report now that you've sent in, you also stressed that these detentions of these trawlers that was delivered just days before Sir Keir Starmer brought forward and was heavily criticised for that so-called landmark deal with the EU over fishing rights. The Labour government must be quite happy, in fact, that you've released this story and you've got this information on the Saturday, because this would have caused an uproar before that deal.
Well, it would have been deeply uncomfortable. The first of those vessels that was seized just 48 hours, less than that, before this deal was actually signed. But obviously the news got out afterwards. And then, of course, this second boat just on Thursday there to be seized as well. That news only just being confirmed to me now by the French Maritime Prefecture. It's worth bringing you the quote from them. They say that the vessel itself was being intercepted and boarded by the Polvier, which is a French patrol vessel, that the sailors on board that Navy ship assessed that this vessel was fishing in that area in the Baie de Somme without a licence. Now, I should say it's not been confirmed as Lady T, but our sources suggest that it was the catamaran Lady T. On marine traffic apps you can look at, you can see it's currently tied up in Boulogne, and looking back on sort of tracking its course, it was indeed in the fishing grounds of the Baie de Somme just a couple of days ago. So we're endeavouring to reach out and speak to the crew of this vessel and indeed others within the fishing industry who understandably are outraged at this, because they see it as a one-way street and grossly unfair, the way in which they believe the EU has access to our fishing grounds, and the licences granted are much easier to obtain for these EU fishing vessels, and it doesn't often work the other way around just as easily.
Mark White, thank you very much for that breaking news story. And yeah, what timing there, Charlie,
Yes.
for such news?
Yes, I have to say, I think a lot of people will be listening to that report and thinking, well, it is remarkable which small boats the French authorities can intercept and take back to France. But they did give that statement saying that they were investigating something. So there we go. Thank you very much, Mark White. Well,